I remember the day my dad brought her home like it was yesterday. It was one of those grey autumn afternoons where the wind rattles the windows like it's trying to get inside, and the leaves swirl around the yard in little cyclones. I was 16, sitting on the porch steps, kicking at a pile of dirt, when his old pickup truck pulled into the driveway. He hopped out with this big, goofy grin, and there she was in the passenger seat. Eleanor. Tall, pale, with hair like midnight, and eyes that seemed to swallow the light. She smiled at me, but it didn't reach those eyes. Right then, something in my gut twisted, like I'd just swallowed a stone. I didn't know it yet, but that was the start of everything unraveling. My mum had passed away 2 years earlier from cancer. It hit Dad hard. He was a shell of a man after that, burying himself in work at the mill just to keep from thinking. I got it. I missed her too, that quiet ache that never really goes away. So when he started dating Eleanor, I tried to be happy for him. She was from out of town, someplace up north he never specified, and she moved in fast. Too fast, if you ask me. Within months, they were married in a quick courthouse ceremony. No family, no fuss. "We're keeping it simple," Dad said, but I caught the way his voice shook a little, like he was convincing himself more than me. At first, things were okay. Eleanor cooked these elaborate dinners, roasts with herbs I'd never heard of, pies that smelled like secrets. She'd hum these old tunes while she worked, melodies that sounded foreign, almost like chants. I'd catch her staring at me across the table. Her fork paused mid-air, and she'd say something like, "You have your mother's eyes, Jake, so bright and full of life." It should have been sweet, but the way she said it, it felt like she was measuring me, like I was a cut of meat at the butcher. The house started changing after she moved in. Our place was an old Victorian on the edge of town, creaky floors and drafty rooms, the kind of house that whispers to itself at night. Eleanor brought in these antiques, mirrors with tarnished frames, clocks that ticked too loud, and this one painting she hung in the hallway. It was of a woman in a black dress, standing in a foggy field, her face blurred like it was melting. "A family heirloom," she called it. Every time I walked past, I swear the eyes in that painting followed me, just a flicker, like a trick of the light. But tricks don't make your skin crawl. Nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, listening to the house settle, and hear footsteps in the hall. Soft, deliberate, like someone pacing. At first I thought it was Dad, but he'd be snoring away in their room. One night, I got up the nerve to peek out. The hallway was empty, moonlight spilling through the window like spilled milk. But there, at the end, Eleanor's door was cracked open, and I heard her voice. Low, murmuring words I couldn't make out. Not English. Something guttural, ancient. I told myself it was a dream, but the next morning there were scratches on the floorboards outside my room, like nails dragged across wood. Dad didn't notice, or if he did, he brushed it off. "She's just eccentric, son. Give her time." But I saw the changes in him too. He started losing weight, his face gaunt, eyes sunken like he'd been up all night. He'd zone out during conversations, staring at nothing, and once I caught him whispering to himself in the garage, repeating the same phrase over and over. "She knows best. She knows." When I asked about it, he snapped at me, something he never did. That scared me more than the footsteps. I started digging. Quietly at first. I'd snoop around when they were out. Her dresser drawers were filled with normal stuff, clothes, jewelry, but tucked in the back was a small wooden box, carved with symbols that looked like runes. Inside, dried herbs, feathers, and a lock of hair tied with red string. Blonde hair, like my mum's. My heart hammered in my chest as I put it back, but not before noticing the faint stain on the string. Rusty, like old blood. School became my escape. I'd stay late, hang with friends, anything to avoid going home. But one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky blood red, I biked back and found the house dark. Too dark. Dad's truck was there, but no lights on. I called out as I stepped inside, the door creaking like a warning. Silence swallowed my voice. Then, from the basement, a thump. Our basement was off limits. Dad said it was full of junk, but Eleanor spent time down there. Organizing, she claimed. I shouldn't have gone down. The stairs groaned under my feet, each step echoing like a heartbeat. The air grew thick, musty, laced with something metallic. At the bottom, a single bulb swung from the ceiling, casting shadows that danced like demons. And there she was, Eleanor, hunched over a table in the corner. She didn't hear me at first. She was arranging things, candles flickering with blue flames, a bowl of dark liquid, and photos. Photos of people I didn't know, their faces crossed out with what looked like blood. I froze. One photo was of a man smiling, but his eyes were scratched through. Another of a woman, her mouth torn open in the picture. And at the edge, my mum's obituary clipping, yellowed and frayed. Eleanor's hands moved like spiders, dipping a finger into the bowl and tracing symbols on the wood. She whispered those words again, louder now, a chant that made the air hum. That's when she turned. Slowly, like she knew I was there all along. Her eyes, God, her eyes, were black. Not just the pupils, but the whole thing, like voids. "Jake," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "you shouldn't be down here." I bolted, feet pounding up the stairs, heart slamming against my ribs. I locked myself in my room, barricaded the door with my desk. Dad came home later, pounding on the door, yelling that I was overreacting. But his voice, it wasn't just anger. It was fear. The next few days blurred into a nightmare. Eleanor acted like nothing happened. All smiles and home-cooked meals. But I saw the cracks. Dad avoided my eyes, and at night, the pacing got worse. I'd hear it right outside my door, stopping, as if listening. Then the scratching started. Faint at first, like branches on a window, but we had no trees close by. One morning, I found marks on my door. 3 long gouges, deep enough to splinter the wood. I couldn't take it anymore. I confided in my best friend Mark, over burgers at the diner. "Dude, that's messed up," he said, eyes wide. "You got to check her out online or something." So we did. Huddled in his room, we searched her name, Eleanor Voss. At first, nothing. Then buried in old news archives from a town 3 states away. A missing persons case. A man, her ex-husband, vanished without a trace. Neighbors reported strange rituals, whispers of witchcraft. And before that, another article. A woman dead in suspicious circumstances, linked to Eleanor through a shared antique shop. The details were vague, but one line stuck. Victims found with symbols carved into their skin. My blood ran cold. That night, a storm rolled in, thunder shaking the house like angry gods. I lay awake, rain lashing the windows, when I heard it, not pacing, but a door creaking open downstairs. Then footsteps, ascending the stairs. Slow, deliberate. They stopped outside my room. I held my breath, staring at the knob as it turned. Once, twice. Locked, thank God. But then the scratching began, insistent, like nails begging to get in. "Jake," her voice slithered through the keyhole, soft and sweet. "Open the door, honey. I just want to talk." I didn't move. After what felt like hours, the footsteps retreated, but sleep didn't come. In the morning, Dad was gone. His truck still in the driveway, keys on the hook, but no sign of him. Eleanor sipped coffee at the kitchen table, calm as ever. "He went for a walk," she said. But her smile was too wide, teeth gleaming like knives. I searched the house while she was in the shower. In the basement, the table was cleared, but under a loose floorboard, I found it. A journal. Pages filled with her handwriting, detailing bindings and transfers. Entries about siphoning life, stealing years to stay young, names crossed out, dates matching those articles, and at the end, my mum's name, with a note. Her essence was sweet, but fleeting. Then Dad's. He's fading fast. The boy will be next. Horror choked me. She wasn't just a killer. She was something worse. Something that fed on lives, wearing them like masks. I grabbed the journal and ran, out the door, into the rain-slicked streets, straight to the police station. But when they raided the house, she was gone. Vanished like smoke. Dad's body turned up days later in the woods, drained, symbols etched into his chest. They never found her. But sometimes at night, when the wind howls, I hear pacing in the hall. And I wonder if she's out there, watching, waiting for her next secret to unfold. If you're listening to this, and you have a new stepmom who seems a little off, trust that gut feeling. Because some secrets aren't meant to stay buried. They claw their way out. It started with a sound, a low, rhythmic thump coming from the attic. I was 14, sprawled on the living room couch, trying to ignore the rain pelting the windows when I first heard it. Thump, 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 like a heartbeat in the walls. Our house was old, a sagging two-story on the outskirts of town, the kind that creaks and groans like it's alive. I figured it was the storm until I realized the sound wasn't random. It had a pattern, and it was coming from her attic. Her name was Vivian, my stepmom. Dad married her 6 months after Mum walked out on us. No note, no goodbye, just gone. I was still raw from it, picking up the pieces of a life that didn't make sense anymore. Dad was smitten. Vivian swept into our lives like a cold wind, all sharp cheekbones and piercing green eyes that seemed to cut through you. She was charming, too charming, always smiling, always watching. But there was something off about her, like the air around her was heavier, thicker. The first few weeks, I tried to like her. She'd bake cookies, leave little notes on my desk. "You're doing great, Ethan." But it felt rehearsed, like she was playing a part. And Dad? He was like a puppy around her, hanging on her every word. But I noticed things, small things. She'd disappear into the attic late at night, the door locked tight. I'd hear that thump, sometimes a low hum, like she was singing to herself up there. Once, I caught her coming down the stairs at 3 a.m., her hands smudged with something dark like soot, or worse. "Just cleaning, Ethan," she said, but her smile was wrong, too tight, like it was holding something back. The house started to feel different after she moved in. Pictures would tilt on the walls like someone brushed past them. The air smelled faintly of copper and damp earth, no matter how many windows I opened. And the mirrors. God, the mirrors. Vivian brought in these old, ornate ones, their frames twisted with strange carvings. Faces, maybe, or animals, worn down by time. I'd catch my reflection in them, but sometimes it didn't look like me. My face would blur, just for a second, like something else was staring back. I told Dad, but he laughed it off. "Old houses, kid. They've got quirks." Quirks don't make your reflection move when you're standing still. Nights were when it got bad. I'd lie awake, the house creaking, and hear that thump from the attic, steady, relentless. Thump, thump, thump. Sometimes I'd hear whispers too, not words, just sounds, like a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. One night I crept to the attic door, heart pounding so loud I thought it'd give me away. The lock was new, shiny, out of place in our run-down house. But through the keyhole I saw light. Not normal light. A sickly green glow, pulsing like it was alive. And Vivian's voice, soft, chanting something I couldn't understand. I backed away, telling myself I imagined it. But the next morning, there were marks on the attic door. Deep scratches, like claws or fingernails. Dad started changing too. He was always tired, his skin grey, like the life was being sucked out of him. He'd forget things, my soccer games, his shifts at the factory. Once I found him standing in the kitchen at midnight, staring at the wall, muttering, "She needs it, she needs it." When I asked what he meant, he blinked, like he was waking up, and told me to go to bed. But his hands were trembling. That's when I knew whatever Vivian was doing, it wasn't just in my head. I started watching her closer. She'd leave for errands at odd hours, coming back with bags she never opened in front of us. One day, while she was out, I snuck into her room. Her dresser was neat, too neat, but under the bed I found a box. Black wood, carved with those same twisted shapes as the mirrors. Inside, bones, small ones like from animals or something else. There were vials too, filled with a thick, dark liquid that shimmered in the light. And a photo, old, faded, of a woman who looked just like Vivian, but the date on the back, 1892. My hands shook as I put it back. That's when I heard the front door slam. "Ethan?" Vivian's voice echoed up the stairs. I barely made it to my room before she reached the hallway, her footsteps slow, deliberate. She didn't say anything else, but I felt her standing outside my door, just waiting. That night, the thumping was louder, angrier. Thump, thump, thump. And the whispers, they weren't whispers anymore. They were voices, overlapping, like a crowd trapped in the walls. I told my friend Sarah at school, spilling everything over lunch. "You need to get out of there, Ethan," she said, her face pale. "Google her. People like that, they leave traces." So we did. We searched Vivian Hart on her laptop and found nothing. Not a social media profile, not a record, nothing. But then Sarah dug deeper into some obscure local history site. An article from 1973 about a woman named Vivian Hart who lived in a nearby town. She'd been questioned after a string of disappearances, people vanishing after visiting her antique shop. No charges, but the article mentioned ritualistic items found in her home. And one detail, she looked identical to my stepmom. Same eyes, same smile. That night, I couldn't sleep. The storm outside raged, wind howling like it was trying to tear the house apart. Around 2 a.m., the power cut out, plunging the house into darkness. Then I heard it. Footsteps, coming down from the attic. Heavy, slow, stopping right outside my door. I held my breath, clutching the baseball bat I kept by my bed. The doorknob rattled, once, twice, then stopped. But her voice, "Ethan, I know you're awake." My blood turned to ice. I didn't move, didn't breathe, until the footsteps faded. The next morning, Dad was gone. His coat was still on the rack, his car in the driveway, but he was gone. Vivian was in the kitchen, humming that eerie tune, stirring a pot of something that smelled like decay. "He had to run out early," she said, not looking up. But her hands, they were stained, dark red, like she'd been painting with blood. I mumbled an excuse and bolted to school, heart racing. I told Sarah everything, and she made me promise to go to the police. But first, I needed proof. That night, I waited until Vivian went to the attic. I grabbed a screwdriver and pried open the attic door. The green glow hit me first, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air was thick, choking, like stepping into a grave. In the center of the room, a circle of candles, their flames green, and symbols painted on the floor in something dark and sticky. In the middle, a mirror, the biggest one yet, its surface rippling like water. And in it, I saw Mum. Her face, pale, screaming silently, Her hands pressed against the glass. Then the reflection changed. It was Vivian, but older, her skin sagging, eyes hollow, like she was rotting from the inside. I stumbled back and the floor creaked. Vivian's head snapped toward me from the corner. Her eyes, they weren't human. They were white, glowing, like twin moons. "You shouldn't have come up here, Ethan," she hissed, and the mirror cracked. I ran, tripping down the stairs, out the front door, into the freezing rain. I didn't stop until I reached the police station, sobbing, telling them everything. They searched the house, but the attic was empty. No candles, no symbols, no mirror. Vivian was gone too, vanished like she'd never existed. They found Dad's body a week later, in a ditch outside town, his skin carved with those same twisted symbols. The police called it a random attack, but I knew. I live with my aunt now, miles away. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. Thump, thump, thump. And I swear, in the mirror across my room, I see her. Vivian, smiling, waiting. If you've got a stepmom who feels wrong, don't ignore it. Check the attic. Check the mirrors. Because some secrets, they don't just hide. They watch. The first time I saw her, I thought she was a shadow. I was 15, sitting at the kitchen table, picking at a plate of cold spaghetti, when Dad walked in with her. Cassandra, my new stepmom. She stood in the doorway, tall and thin, her face half hidden by a curtain of silver blonde hair. Her eyes caught the light, glinting like wet glass, and for a split second, I swore they flickered red. Dad was all smiles, talking about second chances, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had just slithered into our house. Our small, creaky ranch home on the edge of the woods was never the same after that night. Mom had died in a car accident when I was 12. The kind of thing that leaves you hollow, like someone carved out your insides and left you to rattle around. Dad took it worse, drowning himself in whiskey until Cassandra showed up a year ago. She was a nurse, or so she said, from some nowhere town I'd never heard of. She moved in fast, bringing boxes of strange stuff, glass jars filled with herbs, candles that smelled like ash, and a small iron chest she kept locked in their bedroom. Family keepsakes, she called them, but she'd snatch them away if I got too close. At first she was nice, too nice. She'd make these elaborate breakfasts, pancakes stacked high with syrup, and ask about school, my friends, my dreams. But her questions felt like traps, like she was digging for something I didn't know I had. And her smile never matched her eyes. Those eyes followed me everywhere, even when I wasn't looking. I'd feel them on the back of my neck like cold fingers brushing my skin. Dad didn't notice. He was too busy staring at her like she hung the moon. The weird stuff started small. I'd find strands of her hair on my pillow, long and silvery, even though she'd never been in my room. Or I'd wake up to find my shoes lined up at the foot of my bed, laces tied in perfect knots. Once, I found a single word scratched into my desk, mine, in handwriting that wasn't mine. I showed Dad, but he said I must have done it in my sleep. Sleepwalking? Me? I knew he didn't believe it either, but he wouldn't admit it. Cassandra had him wrapped around her finger, and he was starting to look sick. Pale, shaky, like he was fading away. The woods behind our house were where it got really bad. Cassandra would go out there at night, carrying a lantern that cast this weird bluish light. I'd watch from my window as she disappeared into the trees, her shadow stretching longer than it should, like it was reaching for something. One night I followed her. The air was thick with fog, the kind that clings to your skin, and the woods were silent. No crickets, no owls, just my heartbeat thumping in my ears. I found her in a clearing, kneeling in front of a circle of stones. She was chanting, her voice low and guttural, like it wasn't human. In the center of the circle was a doll, crude, made of sticks and cloth, with buttons for eyes. It looked like me. My face, my clothes, even my old sneakers. She was pressing something into it. A lock of hair, dark like mine, tied with a thread that glistened red. Glistened red. I ran back to the house, locked my door, and didn't sleep. The next morning, I felt wrong, like my skin was too tight. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked off, my eyes too big, my mouth too small, like I was wearing someone else's face. I told myself it was just fear playing tricks, but then I started hearing her voice in my head. Not out loud, but inside, whispering my name, telling me to come to the woods. It was faint at first, but it got louder every night, clawing at my thoughts until I couldn't think straight. Dad got worse too. He stopped eating, just sat at the table staring at his plate, muttering about promises and debts. One night I caught him carving something into his arm with a kitchen knife. Symbols jagged and deep, like the ones on Cassandra's iron chest. When I tried to stop him, he looked at me with empty eyes and said, "She owns us now, Nate." I locked myself in my room after that. But the whispering didn't stop. It was her, always her, telling me to give in, to let go. I started digging into her past. I snuck into the school library, using the ancient computer to search her name. Cassandra Lyle. Nothing came up at first, but I kept at it, finding an old forum post buried in a local history thread. It was about a woman named Cassandra, same description, same silver hair, linked to a string of missing kids in a town 50 miles away back in the 80s. The post mentioned rituals in the woods, dolls found with blood-soaked threads. No one was ever charged, but the disappearances stopped when she left town. My stomach churned as I read the last line. She looked too young to be that old. That night, I decided to end it. I waited until Cassandra went to the woods, then broke into her bedroom. The iron chest was under the bed, unlocked for once. Inside, I found more dolls, dozens of them, each one different, each one with button eyes and hair tied in red threads. Some had names scratched into their backs, kids' names, dates going back decades. At the bottom was a photo of Dad, his face crossed out, and one of me half-finished, with a needle stuck through its chest. My hands shook as I grabbed it. But then I heard her. Not outside. Behind me. Her shadow filled the doorway, her eyes glowing that sick red I'd seen before. "You found my collection, Nate?" she said, her voice like a blade. I tried to run, but the air turned heavy, like I was moving through water. She grabbed my wrist, her grip cold as death, and whispered, "You're mine now." My vision blurred, and I saw it, her true face. Not human, not anymore. Skin like cracked porcelain, mouth too wide, filled with rows of sharp, needle-like teeth. I screamed, wrenching free, and ran for the woods, clutching the doll. In the clearing, I set it on fire, the flames licking up the stick figure as her chants echoed behind me. The doll burned, and I heard her scream, not human, but something ancient, furious. The ground shook, the trees bending inward like they were bowing to her. I didn't look back. I ran until my lungs burned, collapsing at a gas station miles away. I called the cops, babbling about dolls and rituals, but when they searched the house, it was empty. No Cassandra, no chest, no dolls, just Dad, sitting in the living room staring at nothing. He didn't recognize me anymore. They found the clearing later. The stones blackened, the ground scorched. The cops said it was a prank, but I know what I saw. I live with my grandparents now, far from those woods. But every night, I check my reflection, terrified I'll see her face instead of mine. And sometimes, when it's quiet, I feel it. A tug in my chest, like a thread pulling tight. If your stepmom seems too perfect, too watchful, look closer. Check the shadows, because some secrets don't just kill, they claim you.